Mike Modest is on the line here. Mike, how you doing today?
Hey, how you doing, Dave?
I'm doing really good. We got Brian here as well. What's your feelings? I guess first thing we'll ask is, what's your thoughts as far as coming out of the match on Monday that aired last night?
Well, I felt pretty good about it. Everybody in back seemed to be very happy with it, and more than anything, everybody in back, Terry Taylor, Eric Bischoff, myself, everybody was just concerned that Chris was okay, and very, very grateful that he wasn't seriously injured.
How was he?
What did you...
He what happened was when he flipped back and he landed on his head, he got up and he was okay, but his arm was numb. His entire arm was completely numb, and a lot of people don't realize that, but if you watch the match, you can see that his arm bothered him the entire time. He couldn't lift it up even level with his shoulder, and I think that just goes to show you the caliber of wrestler that Chris Daniels is and why he is one of the greatest indie workers right now, because he worked through that. And I'll tell you, it was really something, and I was just, like I said, I was just very, very grateful that he was okay. Every time I wrestle, before I go out there, I say a quick prayer that no matter what, that myself and my opponent will come out with no serious injuries. I mean, to me, that's the most important thing. I could care less if the audience is entertained. I mean, obviously that's one of the goals, but my main concern is that nobody's seriously injured. So I was just I was thanking God that Chris was okay.
When that happened and he landed on his head, I mean, at that point, were you thinking in your head, if he's okay, we have to change some things around, or did the match go from that point forward? I mean, it seemed like he was kind of limited in what he could do, although he actually did a lot.
Yeah, he still did a lot, but we did leave a couple of things out, and obviously, like I said, I was just concerned about him, but pretty much I thought things still went very, very well. And when after the match, when Chris and I got to the back, Chris was very, very disappointed, and because he knew that it wasn't the caliber match that he could normally have, and I really had no opinions of the match when we got back. I was just concerned that he was okay, and but then afterwards, after everything smoothed out, I kind of felt the same way as he did, like it wasn't up to par as far as what we're capable of. However, like I said, everybody in the back was very, very happy with it. So, but then when I saw it on TV, I called Chris, and we were both very, very happy with it. We were just very surprised that it looked as good as it did, and that it came off pretty well.
I thought Scott Hudson did a really good job trying to get you guys over too.
Oh man, they Tony Schiavone and they both did a great job. In fact, I was very pleased with the way WCW took care of us. At no point did they make us feel like we were just enhancement talent there to get Scotty over or anything. Although that was a very important part of our job. They really made us feel very welcome and made us feel very good, and they did a great job putting us over. Tony got a lot of information from us before we went out there. Tony wanted to know like some of our accomplishments and some of the things that we've done, so that he could go out and put us over the best he could. I was just very, very pleased with the whole experience.
Now the one thing, did you actually? And where was this? Because it was edited off the TV where Scott Steiner kicked the EMT. I mean, that was just. I mean, was that putting you on a stretcher, or Chris, or do you know where that came from?
To be honest with you, I'm not aware of anything that happened in that whole situation. I didn't see anything. I can tell you this. I can tell you that Scotty's a complete professional, and if someone's claiming that if someone's claiming that Scotty hurt him and stuff, I don't know about that, but I can tell you Scott's a true professional and everything, and like I said, I didn't see anything that I can imagine would have been too devastating. So I didn't see anything that took place on any stretchers. I know Scotty didn't hit me once I was on the stretcher, and I didn't see him hit any EMTs.
Now with Chris, now that you talked to him last night and everything like that, I mean, is he 100% fine, or is he?
No, he's he's sore. His shoulder's sore. His arm is sore. His elbow's bothering him, and his neck's tight. But other than that, I think he's okay. In fact, he's going to Canada Thursday to work up there for a week or so, I believe. And he was telling me he's going to have to work around it a little bit because it is bothering him a little bit. But other than that, I think he's okay.
Did he say whether or not he got checked out?
Yeah, he did. He went and had himself looked at, and they believe that he pinched a nerve, and that's what's causing the arm some discomfort. And the night of the match, that's what was causing the arm to be completely numb. And like I said, man, I tip my hat to Chris Daniels. He's an incredible athlete and just a great performer. Because he just worked right through it like a champ. I don't know that I could have worked through it as well as he did.
And we had one email before you got on the air, and it was talking about the move in the match. It starts as a rock bottom, and you kind of fell backwards.
Yes.
Do you have a name for that move?
No, I don't.
Okay. So
it's so funny. Like a lot of workers, they name their moves and stuff. To me, unless you're on TV, there's no reason to do it, so I never have.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I've used that move before in indie shows and stuff, and Chris suggested that I use it, and it's never been one of my favorite moves. Like, it's not one of those moves that I think is particularly impressive. But Chris kept saying, "No, we got to put it in, man. It's a good move," and it came off really well, and it got a good pop and good reaction, and everybody liked it. So, I'm sure there's some guy in the backyard somewhere that's done it before. So
the stuff that that I liked in the match. One of the things I liked early on, what I thought was good, that kind of took it, because you're going in the ring, you guys, to the mass television audience, probably 95-98%, and to virtually everyone live in Winston-Salem, these are two guys, we don't know who they are. So it's a tough position to be put in.
Yeah.
And when you came in there and did a couple of those arm drags and arm twists on the mat,
yeah.
What I thought was really good was, to me, watching that, it's like saying, wow, this guy can wrestle. He's not just some guy who was thrown in here. It was it was real subtle stuff, but it was stuff that you don't see, and it was quick, and it was well done.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good way I thought that was a real good way to start the match, because it's a base. You're not doing high spots or anything like that. But it's not something that you see or ever, realistically ever see on TV, but it's something that people can go, wow, he knows what he's doing.
Thank you very much, man. It's funny because people see me do that arm whip thing, and a lot of people think that I've invented it. And I always laugh when people talk about inventing moves and stuff, because everything's been done. If some kid in his backyard didn't do it, then a luchador did it, or the Japanese women. Everything's been done. In fact, that move, the first time I ever saw it was on an old tape, and I saw Bob Orton Jr. do it, and he must have been 21, 22 years old. He was very, very young, pretty skinny. He looked kind of like Kendall Windham. But he hit that, and I thought, oh my God, that's incredible. So here's something that was done in the 70s that now I'm doing nowadays, the year 2000, and everybody thinks it's like a new thing. And yet here again, it's been done before. But and Johnny Smith also uses it in Japan quite a bit. So, but yeah, it's a really impressive looking move, and I really liked it. So I took it and added it to my repertoire, and it actually got a pop. And one of the things I love about WCW, and about the WCW management, and also about the fans, is they can appreciate good wrestling. I had a WWF tryout where I did the same thing, and because I wasn't one of the marquee guys, they could give 2 cents. They don't even care. They would rather see me jump in there with glow sticks and spin them around or spin Chinese plates on my head. They would much rather see that than to see any kind of good wrestling. They are so completely brainwashed to the Hollywood product, and it's really kind of sad.
I got an email which said that on the SmackDown show, they have a big video package putting over the Jericho-Benoit ladder match. So, and Jericho got to look very respectable against the Big Show.
Anybody mention anything about another Tough Enough promo?
I'm sure that they're going to do it regularly, but I didn't hear exactly.
Mike, did you see that on Monday?
What's that?
The Tough Enough videos?
No, I didn't. I heard about the promo and stuff, but I know I didn't see anything about it.
Okay.
You probably wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I doubt I would.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, it was like probably, it was the kind of a thing where those guys, probably the first day they would show up at the school, and to be trained, and they, look like they've never done anything athletic in their life. They come in, and they're out there doing like, trying to do a Steve Austin promo.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that's the important thing, man. If the guy can talk, then hell, we can make a wrestler out of him. That's what really counts. Jim Cornette one time he said to me, he said, Mike, we don't have a place for you here, and he said, and I'll tell you why, because you're a wrestler. He said, we don't really need any wrestlers. What we really need are people that can juggle glow sticks, spin plates on their heads, and that's what we really need here. And when he told me that, he wasn't saying it in a way to knock WWF, and I certainly am not knocking WWF. They are the best at their product. They have an incredible group of guys, and a lot of the wrestlers can really go. But the emphasis has been put on the Hollywood thing about the interviews and any kind of extracurricular talents that someone may have. That's what they're really interested in, and the audience buys it, and the audience loves it, and they buy tickets, and that's what's really important. I mean, bottom line is putting butts in seats, and so and they do a very good job at that. But it is kind of sad that the emphasis on the talent and the wrestling is kind of being taken off of it. Although I did see the Royal Rumble, and I was very impressed. The Benoit and Jericho match was phenomenal. That was a great match. And I even enjoyed the Royal Rumble. I liked some of the surprises. I didn't really particularly care for the Drew Carey surprise, but I loved seeing Honky Tonk Man in there. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I think we all did on that one. This was hold on. There's something here for Mike before we get going. This says, I'd like to ask your opinion on Vic Grimes, Tom Howard, and Aaron Aguilera.
Aaron, I haven't seen too much on Aaron. I really haven't seen him work that many times, so I won't comment on Aaron. Vic Grimes, I think, is very, very good. I of course trained Vic, so I'm going to have a slightly biased opinion of Vic. But I think he's an incredible wrestler, and of course he's just insane as far as some of the hardcore stuff that he does. The hardcore stuff isn't really my thing. It's not really my style. That's Vic's deal. And I think it's a shame that people don't really realize what a good wrestler he is, because sometimes he relies so heavily on the hardcore stuff. And as far as Tom Howard, I think Tom Howard's great. Sometimes, I think maybe for a guy his size, maybe he even does a little too much. He's an incredible athlete. I think it's real sad that he's never really gotten an opportunity in the business to, really move ahead. Right now, I think he's helping Rick Bassman with UPW and everything, and he's obviously a tremendous hand down there. I just have a lot of respect for Tom Howard. I've seen him work quite a few times, and I think he's incredible.
Have you talked to anyone as far as working in Tijuana? Because I know just this last week, some people down there brought your name up about bringing you in. I don't know if you know that or not.
No, I wasn't aware of that. But actually, while I was at WCW, I talked to Conan a little bit. And he said that there might be some interest in bringing me in there. So I would love to. I'd love to go work TJ. I think that'd be great.
Now, what like after the show? I mean, what was kind of the reaction that you guys were given after the thing? Because they did a broken leg thing, so it'd be really foolish for you to be on TV probably within the next at least month anyway.
Yeah.
After that, it'd probably be okay. I mean, did they say, okay, we're going to bring you back in 6 weeks, or what was, how was kind of everything left?
Everything was just kind of left. That hey, it was a great job. You guys did wonderful. They very well may give us a call, and then again, they very well may not. There's no real, guarantees in this business, as obviously I found out last time I went to WCW, but they were very, very happy with it. So that's what I was concerned about. Last time I was there, Arn Anderson, gave me a huge compliment and said that he watched my match and thought that it was very, very good. And so, I mean, that was a huge compliment. This time around, Arn also congratulated us and said that he enjoyed it, and also Ric Flair did as well. So to me, I mean, even if I don't get the call and we don't end up going back to me, it was all worth it. It was a great experience. We got some more national exposure. We impressed some people that I've always admired and looked up to. So to me, it was just a great experience. And I was very, very happy with it.
Was Bischoff around when you were working there last time?
No, he was not.
Out that whole period.
He would have come in. I mean, he would have had that match right before Bischoff came back, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and Bischoff actually, I don't believe even saw the show that I worked there. I don't even know if he saw it or not. But he was there this time, and he also told us that he was very happy with it, and he thanked us very much for coming down. And I had just I'll tell you, I had a great time. It was probably the best locker room experience I've ever had. Everybody seems very, very happy right now. Everybody's working very, very hard, and the management was very respectful and just very, very nice. And it was just a great experience.
Well, everyone, they're in a situation, they got to make it work.
Yeah.
They're under a lot of pressure, but, and they know they have to they better know they have to make new stars. Eric was on the show saying that, he recognizes it, and they better know that they got to make that move this year.
Yeah, he's very well aware. Eric, Johnny Ace, Terry Taylor, they're all incredibly smart people to the business. So I'm sure they know where their shortcomings are and the changes that they've got to make. And, it's going to take some time to make all those changes. I'm real excited to see those changes happen, whether I'm with the company or not.
Did Johnny Ace work with you guys at all?
Not really. He thanked us as well, but, he really didn't, have a whole lot of, input with us beforehand. We dealt mainly with, Terry Taylor. So, but, like I said, it was a pretty awesome experience. And I mean, I'm not just saying that hoping for a job. It really was, just a great experience being there.
Let's see. On the Steiner incident, some reports are saying the kicks were worked, and Steiner and the EMT were talking and laughing afterwards, and later was when the EMT got upset. I don't know about that.
Well, they'd be worked anyway, unless he thought it was like some fan hitting the ring.
Well, I'm sure that Scott Steiner didn't kick him as hard as he could.
Yeah.
Because, if he was under the presumption it was another worker, he threw the worker.
Let me tell you something. If Scott Steiner kicked somebody as hard as he could, his foot would go right through their body. I can promise you. I can promise you that. That guy is just the strongest individual that I've ever been in the ring with. He is incredibly strong. So I don't imagine if he did do anything that guy would even have been talking afterwards. So I think if anybody's trying to make a case out of it, it's just someone trying to make a quick buck. That's all.
Let's start with Bob in New Jersey. Bob, you're up with Mike Modest.
Hey guys, hey Mike, you had a great match with Daniels on Tuesday. I was really impressed, and I hope you get a contract.
Yeah, I hope so.
And I got a question for you, Dave. How come?
Yes, go ahead.
How come Vince didn't have Haku bring the belt with him on Raw so he could do the dumping and the trash thing just to get back at Bischoff for the whole Medusa thing?
Because it would acknowledge the other company, and I don't think that he felt the need to do that. I don't see where it would have served Vince's purpose.
Plus, I'd like to interject. Haku's a professional, and Haku wasn't looking to do anything to damage WCW. He was looking to get a contract, and Vince happened to be there offering. But I don't think Haku has any ill feelings towards WCW, so I don't think he would do anything to try to burn that bridge. That would be very foolish, and he's certainly a smarter guy than that.
He gave the belt back before he showed up, too.
Yeah. He gave it to Barbarian, right?
I think so.
Is that at an indie show or something?
Yeah,
they worked an indie show the night.
Barbarian, and then that was that.
Yeah, because they worked an indie show the night before. Yeah.
Okay, now do you think Macho Man's ever going to come back to WWF or WCW?
Ever, probably somewhere, sometime, yeah. Because everyone does. But I don't know when or to who, and I can't see him going to WWF and being, God, I don't know what they could do with him. Other than just as a special guest thing, or a PR guy. WCW, I mean, it wouldn't be in their best interest, but what they need to do is not bring back guys like that, except for maybe, as a special guest, sure. But,
maybe a battle royal?
Nah, not like that. That was very strange. But, he's a big name, and he's a celebrity, and as far as like working as a PR guy, like let's say that they're doing a house show in like Chicago or San Francisco, and to be an advance man, going to the city a month before, going to all the radio shows, plug the card, get the first day ticket sales. I think that that's the kind of stuff that like a Randy Savage could be very, very, very valuable because he is a celebrity. And wrestling, like you could shoot like one angle or two angles a year and get him in a grudge match with someone, keep it short. But the guys like that, I don't think that guys like that should be on television 52 weeks a year. I just don't think it's good for them, although a lot of them don't know it, and I don't think it's good for the company either. But there's a place for them. There's a place correctly done for Hogan. I just don't know how, if they'll do it. Baba was still an effective part of his company at the age of 60 in the ring, but it wasn't as a main eventer.
And so much of it would be dependent on Hogan, too, because, Baba was willing to do that. Yeah, well,
Baba knew he couldn't compete athletically with those guys, but, people wanted to, and Baba did work every night. But I mean, when they would go to the small town, people, they liked seeing Baba in the third match because, he was, a cultural icon. And, if Hogan appeared in a certain role and went on the road and all that, it would be fine. There'd be nothing wrong with it. It's just that you really don't want to have him in the big athletic. I think you want the main event to be a good athletic match, and I think that the time has passed for Hogan in that spot.
There's actually a lesson to be learned from Baba, because just look at his funeral and everything that happened when he died. And this was a guy that was willing to work comedy matches.
Yeah, but he was in his culture. I think people like that have never been in Japan don't really understand this. In his culture, he was much, much bigger than Hogan was here or anyone was here. I mean, he was, when he died, they were basically saying, like, he was probably of the generation, probably the second or third most, or fourth most famous athlete of the last, 40 years in that country. He had 28,000 people at his funeral or some ridiculous number like that.
Yeah.
It was like one of the 10 biggest funerals ever in Japan, and it was the biggest funeral, I'm pretty sure, ever of an athlete in history.
Mm-hmm.
That's recorded. Him or maybe El Santo or somebody like that. I don't know what El Santo's funeral, how many people were there, but that was a big one too. But, I've never heard of Babe Ruth or anyone like that. 28,000 people come to their funeral,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And one more question. How come WCW brought back Glacier?
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he is a nice guy. I think they just had an idea for him, and we'll see if it works or it doesn't. It's obviously they're bringing him back as a comedy role, doing this, kind of, I think they saw the success Kurt Angle had early on, doing that fake babyface, insincere heel role.
Yeah.
And I guess that they felt that they could have him play that superhero role in that geeky way, and it would be good as a heel. And I heard that his segment, which airs tonight, was funny, and we'll see. Sometimes funny's good. Sometimes when they try to be funny, you watch it on TV and it isn't funny at all, and that's real bad.
Okay, thanks, guys.
And I want to read this. This is from someone who used to work at the World Wrestling Federation, who just goes to show that people's thoughts about wrestling haven't changed. The video of Sid breaking his leg is currently making its way across the internet. It hit my office this morning. My coworkers all know I work for the WWF. My job previous to this job, so they want to know the story behind the video. Specifically, how did they do the gimmick? One person asked me if Sid was wearing a rubber leg. Yes, a rubber leg. These professional people, they're all in their 30s, and they figured that horrific sight had to be a gimmick because it took place in the ring. Thought you'd be entertained by that. Mike, did you see that leg break?
Yeah, unfortunately I did. I did see that, and God bless Sid. I hope he recovers as best as possible and as quick as possible.
One of the things, you've been around wrestling now for, 10, 11 years, I think.
Yeah.
And, a lot of friends outside of wrestling. And I think, you've never you've never had a full-time job with a major promotion,
mm-hmm.
but you've wrestled indies for a long time, and you've had, more than your share of injuries. You're just getting over the knee surgery and things like that.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? And when you talk to people outside and tell them about, the injuries that you have and how dangerous it is, what percentage do you think are surprised, and what percentage do you think somehow have a mental block and don't even believe it?
I think, I'd like to say that I think most people realize that what we do is very, very dangerous, and that, definitely real injuries do result quite often. But amazingly enough, there are a lot of real morons out there. I've had people tell me that the cage doors are fake. I've had people tell me that the chairs are not real, and things like that. And it's very, very irritating to be a professional wrestler. And, the knee surgery I just had, I had a micro tear of my ACL and my anterior cruciate, and I tore my meniscus in 2 places. And, I'm somebody that's not making a ton of money in this business. I do it, because I love it, and hopefully one day I will make money. But, it is very, very irritating, to be experiencing real pain and real injuries quite often. For example, what happened to Chris, that could have been a career-ending injury. It's very irritating. And a lot of times, I'll just leave it at that. It's really, really upsetting.
I want to switch gears a little bit to urban wrestling. Do you know what the status is as far as television of urban wrestling, and what your thoughts are of what the next taping and some of the guys that are there? Because I know you've trained a lot of the guys that are working for that company.
Yeah. The BET was running ads. It's really funny because I heard that BET has no idea. Somebody reported, I don't know, I'm not sure who, but someone told me that BET apparently had no idea about urban, and it's just kind of funny that they would run ads. I saw the ads personally myself that they ran advertising that it would be on Wednesday the 17th, which was going to be the air date. That was going to be the start date, but there were some last-minute contract problems. The contract was not signed, so that whole thing was ended. I do understand that it is being worked out, that it will be on, and people are just going to have to be patient. I'll definitely let you know when I hear something more concrete, but right now I have nothing real concrete to tell you. But hopefully we'll be on there soon, and I know it'll be a tremendous success once it gets on there. It's an incredibly entertaining show, and it's getting better and better every episode, and we're getting better and better guys working for UWA. So it's definitely something that wrestling fans should look for.
Any real good prospects that a lot of people might not have heard about?
Excuse me, say that again?
Any real good prospects that you've trained that some people might not have heard about?
Yeah, and I want to make a correction real quick. I didn't specifically train all of these guys from scratch. All these guys did receive training from other people before I got my hands on them. All I did was basically continued some training. I took some things that I didn't necessarily like. Not that it was necessarily wrong. I just took some things that I didn't necessarily like. Kind of got it going towards the way I was trained a little bit, and I mainly got everybody on the same page so that guys were more compatible with each other and everything. So that's pretty much what I did. But yeah, there's a lot of very, very good guys. Sonny Siaki, who was a guy from WCW Power Plant, is going to be very good. Orlando Jordan is an incredible athlete and also an amateur wrestler, and he's going to be a definite asset. Also, Jimmy Solo. There's Estrada, who was trained by Dusty Rhodes. Estrada, I'm super, super impressed with that guy. He's a great talent, and so yeah, there's a lot of very talented guys, and I'm very excited for it to get started and get back to filming.
Now, is Rocky Johnson working down there yet, or because we talked about Rocky Johnson coming in, and has that started?
I believe Rocky Johnson is officially a part of the company. They haven't done a press release or anything like that, but yeah, he is going to be working with Urban, and that'll be obviously a tremendous asset as well.
Now, how did you get Roland Alexander to? I guess he's going to the next UPW show, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How did that happen? Because I remember when we talked, we were talking about the idea of Roland and Rick Bassman kind of learning because they each have strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
And you kind of thought that it was it's a great idea, but it's never going to happen.
Man, it was something that I wanted to happen so bad. And I was working towards it, and I really wished that I could get them to kind of work together a little bit because, I thought that it could only make the two of them stronger, to learn from each other and also, obviously they both realize that both promotions have talent that is an asset to both companies because we've been using the Ballards and Chris Daniels, and there's a couple other guys like John Cena that I would love to get up there, Billy D, Frankie the Future, Kazarian, I'd love to get them working for APW. And then, Rick's also been using myself, Tony, and Donovan. So, I mean, to me, it was just a natural fit that they should not necessarily be enemies. I mean, gosh, they're 400 miles away from each other. They're not directly competing with each other, and they never know down the line one of them might need the other and might be able to help the other. So, having a good working relationship, I just think all this petty squabbling amongst indie promotions is just that. I think it's just petty, and I just think there's a lot more to gain by working together, and I'm really glad that Rick extended that hand and made that move. I'm really, really excited about it and looking forward to it. It'll be really cool.
Well, the other thing also is that Northern California versus Southern California is totally natural rivalry.
Yeah, completely.
Like, I mean, we've all grown up with that in every sport, and it's just so easy.
Mm-hmm. It's really a natural fit, so, and Rick's taking advantage of it, and I hope that we can get some UPW guys up here as well with APW, so it's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's go to Matt in San Francisco. Matt, you're up with Mike.
Hey, guys. Good
afternoon.
Hey, how's the leg, Mike?
Which one? Scotty's the one that Scotty worked over, or the one that was operated on?
Both.
Both. The one that Scotty worked on is doing okay. I should be okay. And the one that I had the surgery on is also doing good. It's probably about 75% right now, and I still experience a little pain. But it's getting there, and I was real happy that during my match with WCW it didn't bother me at all. So I'm just anxious for it to get back to 100%. I was telling a friend of mine just recently, when I first came back from the injury and I first went to the gym, I was doing leg extensions and I could barely do 10 pounds and it was excruciating pain. And I'm sitting there doing these leg extensions with 10 pounds, and this lady came up. She's like a middle-aged housewife, and she came up and she says, how many sets do you have? And I said, this is my last one. And I get off the thing, and she throws up, like 40, 50 pounds, and she's doing it. I'm like, oh, God, how embarrassing. I feel like I should be wearing a T-shirt that says, hey, the reason I'm lifting light is because I'm injured, I don't think thinking I'm a weakling, So, but, yeah, thank you for asking. Both the legs are doing well.
Hey, you guys did tear the house down.
Thank you very much. And again, I tip my hat to Chris Daniels. That was, couldn't have done it without Chris working through it like that, like he did.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they gave you that amount of time.
Yeah, well.
That was,
yeah, when they called us, I mean, Terry was very, open and very forthright with what he said was going to happen. And I've always heard, and every dealing that I've ever had with Terry Taylor, he's really a man of his word, and he's a straightforward kind of guy. He doesn't BS you, and he doesn't tell you things that aren't true. And he told me what was going to happen, and also I spoke with Ed Ferrara as well, and I completely trust Ed. I've known Ed for quite a while. He used to work with Vern Langdon down in Los Angeles, and they both told me what was going to happen, and I was very excited, and they said it would give us a chance to shine and everything, and they were true to their word, and it came off really well. One of the things that that really frightened me is the angle somehow leaked out, and I'm not sure who was the first to cover it or anything, but somehow the angle leaked out, and it certainly wasn't Chris or myself, because that's the kind of thing that really could jeopardize somebody's job. And I was very nervous when it happened. I thought, oh my God, because if someone were to think that Chris and I, would go to an internet company or a sheet and leak that kind of information, that is definitely the kind of thing that would have cost us a job, and kind of irresponsible of journalists. Although I guess that is their job. It's the kind of thing that can cost a young indie talent trying, very hard to make it in this business. It's the kind of thing that costs people jobs. And but everything ended up being okay, and Terry was aware that it leaked out, but he also understood that Chris and I would have nothing to gain from that, and so he didn't blame us for it. So that was a close one. So I was
You know
really
what?
nervous about that.
On things like that, I have always thought that, and I mean, I have seen when an angle, on occasion when an angle is out like that, and then there's that, in fact, WCW sort of did that with Rick Steiner.
Mm-hmm.
There's that feeling that, okay, we have to do something different because it's out, and I've always thought, I mean, on that one, whether it was Rick Steiner or Animal, was the same thing either way. But a lot of times it's like, if you've got a long-term plan, the fact that 1% of the people kind of know a finish, or even 5% know the finish, to me it's just like, just go do your plan because those 5% are buying it anyway, and then you're marketing towards, these to me, when you're doing WCW Nitro and you're doing WF Raw, you're marketing towards people who watch television who are not on the internet. I mean, 95% of them are not, and probably 99% of them are not scouring wrestling websites to find out inside information. I mean, they may have internet capability. Everyone does.
But they don't really care to find out. And that's very true. And that's what they did. They went ahead and went through with it. But at the same time, it brings, it could bring questions into someone's mind. Is this the kind of guy we want with the company? If Chris or myself were the type to leak information, is that really the kind of guy we want to bring into the company? So even though it is only 1 to 5%, it's still something that in a very short instance could end up hurting young indie workers, and it's kind of like one of those double-edged swords because you guys as journalists, it's your job, it's what you guys do to make a living, and I totally respect that, and I'm sure everybody respects that. And on the other hand, sometimes it can be damaging. In this case, it wasn't. So no harm, no foul. So it ended up being a good thing, all the way around. But still, I think you guys are incredibly. I think the wrestling journalists are just incredible on how you guys get information because I don't know where that came from. Like I said, I don't even know who was the one that released it, but.
I don't even know, but I sure know I heard it.
yeah, it's just amazing because, and it's also amazing how quick things travel in this business. Like, I've always.
Well, now everything
fascinated
travels
by that.
Yeah, now everything travels immediately. I mean,
yeah.
Before, I can go because the internet. I mean, I can go back. I mean, like 13, 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Buddy Roberts of the Freebirds? He was working in Mid-South.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and there was a rumor that went around wrestling that Buddy Roberts had died. Now, Buddy Roberts was working for Watts. He never missed a TV. He never missed a house show. People were calling me up, wrestlers from WWF. Remember Orndorff? Remember the Orndorff? Well, I don't even know because if you've noticed, the Paul Orndorff death rumors when Orndorff had to take a year or two off.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, these rumors would go for months and months, and there was no validity to them. And it was like people would call me up in WWF, and they would go like, "Oh my God, did Buddy Roberts die?" And I go, "No, he hasn't even missed a date." And I mean, a month later they'll call me back. Okay, and they go, "Are you sure that Buddy Roberts didn't die?" And it's like, "I'm sure. He's still working. He's got the TV title." I mean, and it's amazing. Here we are, 13, 14 years later, and those stories, can get out in one day, but they're all corrected also within a day. The real fake stories. Someone's death. I mean, they've gotten out. There've been fake deaths that have gone all over the internet, but they're also, they don't last. Those stories don't last a month at least.
Yeah. At least the internet does correct those quickly. So that is the nice thing. It can, retract things that are incorrect quickly.
Question for you, Mike. You wouldn't happen to have weekends off, would you?
Right now, yes, I do. I'm working for UWA and right now I'm not working weekends, so.
I would like to see you and Tom Howard as the new La Migra.
Yeah, that would be hot. That'd be great. I'd love to do it.
I mean, I've seen the heat that you and Diamond got.
Yeah.
But Howard and yourself in Tijuana.
Yeah, Tom would be awesome in that.
I've seen Tom. He did the Supreme Soviet. He did a Soviet gimmick in Tijuana, and he got a lot of heat doing it too. And that was when he was pretty green as a worker because this goes back 5-6 years now.
The Peace Festival, wasn't it? When they had the Peace Festival?
No. This was years before the Peace Festival. This was a couple of years. He did the Peace Festival in like '96, but I'm guessing this was maybe at least a year before that when it's KGB with a Russian dog, and they were working for Pena. This was before. I think it would have been right after Art Barr died. And I know they worked with Conan. Conan was working babyface because Conan and Tom Howard was kind of like a big program at the time. And then Pena just the money situation just couldn't afford to be bringing in foreigners, and kind of died out.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the proper promotion of the whole gimmick thing, I mean, you guys could draw some serious money.
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely.
Well, the problem with Mexico is just serious money in Mexico isn't serious money because of the, I mean, it is as far as it's serious people. I mean, they draw, great crowds. It's just that, just the way because of the peso and everything like that. It's like, it's just not that. It's not huge money like compared to the United States. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why, all of their wrestlers want to come here because, here's where the money is, even though, they have in many ways, a superior, I don't want to say superior wrestling, but superior wrestling culture, I would say without a doubt, in Mexico to the United States as far as it being part of the culture and everything like that and wrestlers being respected as far as like, the veterans and stuff, like that can go on. It's a totally different mindset. It's more of like a family thing where the grandfather goes with the grandson to wrestling, whereas here it's more of, it's a demographic thing, it's like, teenagers and young adults and they're into what's hip right now.
One more question. Now that Daniels worked WCW TV, did it affect his deal with UPW?
No, I don't think so. Not at all. I don't believe so. No.
No, it wouldn't affect a developmental deal with WWF.
No, I don't see why it would. I mean, that would be completely silly. I mean, if it is something that WWF would frown upon, that would be so silly and completely selfish on their part. And I would seriously have to question their mindset because they know of Chris Daniels, they're very well aware of Chris Daniels, and yet they're not offering him anything. I heard a rumor, and it's just a total rumor. I didn't hear it from a very reliable source, but I heard a rumor that last time when WCW did sign Daniels, that suddenly WWF was interested in hiring him. And
it always works that way.
Yeah, and I thought, that's kind of a crappy thing to do to a guy like Chris who is struggling to make it in this business, struggling to, keep a roof over his wife and his head. And if that was the situation where, WCW's interested, well, now we're interested. And then as soon as WCW lets him go, why wouldn't they still extend that offer? I mean, they would have to understand that the guy's got to earn a living. And if they don't, then screw them. I think that's pretty cold-blooded, And so I don't see how. I know a few of the people in the office there, and I know they're not the type of people to do that. And they're very well aware of the fact that a guy in this business is very lucky just to have a job. So I would seriously. I didn't believe the rumor when I heard that. So, but yeah, I don't see how that would affect his relationship with WWF or UPW.
I think there are a lot of guys that have done tryouts for both groups before getting a deal with either.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's not, there is that mentality of, especially in WWF and WCW of we'll fit a guy in. I mean, like, because there's people who are aware of talents of guys that are out there, and it's sort of like we'll fit a guy in when we have a good idea for him or something like that, and then all of a sudden, it's just the reality when the other group has interest, all of a sudden your interest picks up because it's kind of an immediacy. Well, we can't
exactly.
We can't kind of sit there. So I don't think it's like necessarily like a vindictive thing as far as like why their interest might pick up. But it is natural that something like that happens when all of a sudden it's like, wow, like we're interested in this guy. All of a sudden the opposition's going like, well, let's take a second look at him because if WWF is interested in him, maybe there's something to him. So if we're WCW, then we get a lot more interested than we would before. It's just natural that happens in certain cases.
Yeah, and I can totally see that. So yeah, but I still don't think either way. I don't think there would be any I don't think there would be any repercussions on Chris. As I guess my point. I don't think that they would say, oh, that Chris, damn him! How dare he try to get a job with another company?
No, you can't have that mentality because that's unfair to the guys.
Yeah, I don't, and that's all I'm really saying. I don't think they would have that kind of mentality towards Chris.
I don't think so either. Let's see. This says on the AAA pay-per-view, Mike Tenay claimed that 100,000 people, if not more, attended the funeral of El Santo. Is that an exaggerated number? You know what? I don't know. I'm gonna ask about this one. Maybe that is true. I mean, I know El Santo had a gigantic funeral. 100,000 people. My God. You know what I mean? That's a lot. Let's see. Did you ever see The Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher when the WCW people were there, including Medusa, Piper, and Heenan? Oh, I sure did. When Bill Maher said that no one ever gets hurt in wrestling, and it's like a circus, and Roddy Piper went crazy. And I didn't think Roddy did a very good job either.
Did he, expose the big scar on his hip?
Yeah, he pulled down his pants and showed his scar.
That's good.
Yeah, Roddy was way out there on that one. That show I thought was so embarrassing from all perspectives. But it's you know what? It's what they wanted. If they wanted an intelligent show on wrestling, they would have led it in that direction.
They could have got Lou Albano.
Well, if they wanted a really bad show, they could have got Lou Albano. Some people have done that. Many people have done that. For a while, remember there was a period there where everybody that did a wrestling show had to have Lou Albano on the panel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's go to Tony in Long Island. Tony, what's going on?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Tony?
Good. I had just gotten home from the gym and I had put on the archive show to listen to it, and luckily you guys started off the show reminding the fans that Nitro was on, so I turned on Nitro and I got to catch your guys' match, Mike, and it was really good.
Oh, thank you very much.
It was great. I'm glad I got to see it. So I didn't know what the ending was going to be, and like a previous caller said, I was amazed how much time they gave you. I kept expecting it to end, which was a nice surprise that they let you guys just go out there and do it. And the ending was kind of could have been better, but it was just great. And I tell you, it must have been a rush when Ric Flair and Arn Anderson congratulate you after the match.
Oh man, those are the kind of things that all the guys. I mean, you just can't get a compliment any better than that. And as far as the angle, I guess a lot of people on the internet really didn't like it and stuff, and they wanted to see me and Chris keep going and go to a finish and stuff. And I think I'm always the type I like clean finishes a lot, but at the same time I thought the angle was pretty good. It got Scott a lot of heat, and the whole point was that people wanted to see an ending and they didn't get to see it. And that's sometimes the best thing, Maybe it'll create a demand for me and Chris to come back, hopefully. Hopefully people will send emails and say, "Hey, we want to see that match again," So sometimes it's good not to always get what you want,
Right.
No, that I agree with, but I didn't like the ending. I thought, I don't know. I thought that
it was just like the worst stuff from Nitro in '96.
Yeah,
you watch the match and everything would be going just great, and somebody would run in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they need to kind of rebuild. They need to rebuild the fans' faith in the product, and also when you introduce a new guy, or in this case it was two new guys, I think you just don't want to. I don't know. I just don't think you want to position them in a certain way. And I mean, it was like if they wanted Steiner to come in and just beat two guys up, I think they should have taken two guys with a lot less potential and given them 2 minutes to do a match, because this time they kind of got people into the match. And also it's when your first match is over there, it's probably not good in my mind. It doesn't matter. It won't matter in a month. And if you get a job there and they put you in whatever position that they're going to put you in, that's cool. But I hate to see both guys end up on their back, the last scene, you know what I mean? So that's just my opinion.
Well, you know what they say about opinions.
It's not your call.
Everybody's got their opinions. I thought it was pretty good, and I was really grateful that they gave us the opportunity to come in and get that national exposure. And at the same time, I mean, it was Scotty Steiner. It's not like it was just some mid-card or nobody, heavyweight. It was Scotty Steiner. He's the champion. And he came at a point where it was late in the match, so it really didn't hurt Chris or myself, for Scotty to do that. And I thought overall it was pretty good, but everybody's welcome to their own opinion. Which, can I go off on something real quick that I want to get off my chest a little bit?
Yeah,
I think the internet sometimes is the best and the worst thing for professional wrestling. I mean, for me, it's been a great tool. It's been something where, no one would have known of me, including Terry Taylor and WCW, if it wasn't for the internet. So for a guy like me, it's been just an invaluable tool. But I think sometimes the public is very irresponsible in the information that they receive on the internet. Just because somebody posts it doesn't necessarily mean it's always true. And in fact, most of the time, I think most posts and most things on the internet are based on opinions, assumptions, and half-truths, but people take it for gospel all the time, and I think the public needs to be a little more responsible and research things a little bit and go to sources that are a little more credible, Dave, like your show, and I'm not just trying to kiss butt, but they need to go to sources that are a little more credible and ask some questions and actually research some things, because it's getting kind of carried away where people just post something on the boards and everybody takes it like it's the gospel. And I just think it's getting kind of out of hand sometimes. One other thing I wanted to say is I got a chance to look at Brian's Figure 4, and Dave, you are completely right. It is absolutely hilarious. I know he probably pisses a lot of people off, but it is very, very funny stuff. And I think, for the most part, I think it's okay for people to even laugh at themselves. I mean, I don't think people can take themselves too seriously all the time. And I think if Brian pokes fun at something, I don't see how, someone can get too bent out of shape. But Brian, you're very, very funny. It's a very, very good sheet. In fact, I'm going to subscribe.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. But sorry, I wrote those two things down. Those are two things that I wanted to get off my chest real quick. Two things that I wanted to just say.
Yeah, getting back to last night, the announcers have caught a lot of flack over the last couple of years, and a lot of it deserved. But I'll tell you, they did a great job last night making your match seem important. I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, again, man, I tip my hat to Tony Schiavone and both of those guys. They came up and they got some information from us, and so that they could go on there and really put us over. And I felt very, very good, man. They really treated us with a lot of respect, and they didn't treat us like two goofball extras that didn't know what we were talking about, enhancement talent or jobbers.
Scott Hudson was going nuts last night.
Yeah, I mean, Scott really
did a good job.
I mean, they really, I tip my hat to those guys. Both of them, I thought, did a great job. And I really think they did a good job throughout the whole show. I watched the show, and Nitro got some, bad reviews from people that actually attended the show. But I watched on television. I found it pretty entertaining. People always, like I said, everybody's got their opinions of angles and stuff like that. But, sometimes you don't see the whole picture, and you don't know what's going on in Terry's mind or in Johnny Ace's mind and Bischoff's mind. And sometimes they're looking at long term when, sometimes it doesn't necessarily, it's not really the thing that we want to see at the time. But I think, man, I'm really looking forward to some big changes, and I've already seen some really, important changes, I think, in the product already, and I'm really excited. I really think that company's gonna get back on track and really start drawing some numbers again. I'm hoping. I got my fingers crossed for him anyway.
Did you get a chance to see the match that's going to air tonight with the Cruiserweight Gauntlet match?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I thought
that
it was
great.
Really good. Yeah, okay. Did you see it, Dave?
No, it'll air in a couple of hours. So
yeah, man, I'll tell you, I liked it. I thought it was very good. Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio, Lash, I mean, all those guys, man, they worked their butts off. Shane Helms, it was a great match, and those guys worked their butts off. A very entertaining match, man. Make sure you don't miss any of those matches. It was great wrestling and great entertaining television.
Now, somebody emailed in and asked, what's your and Daniel's weight? I think what's Daniel's about? Is he about 210?
Yeah, Daniel's about 210. He's a little taller than I am, and I'm weighing in right now at 2 1/4.
Okay.
Mike, I wanted to ask you as well, like, not being a wrestler, like that last half hour leading up to the match, what are you doing backstage? Like, who are you talking to? Like, where are you and what's going on? And
the last half hour, actually, I try to get off into a quiet spot. And I just try to think about what I got to go out there and do. I try to think about, what's very important. I try to think of, like, what's the most important thing to do, because sometimes you can't always cover everything that you want to do out there. Especially when you're given 6 minutes and you have to impress, that's a tough spot to be in. It's a lot easier. Like, a lot of people said that, after Daniels fell on his head, he probably shouldn't have tried some of the things that he tried, and maybe should have went to some more basic holds and everything. And man, I'll tell you, that's easy to say when you got the job. And had we had a job, that's probably what would have happened. We would have, toned things down a little bit, gone to a little more wrestling, elbow drops, et cetera. But when you're put in a spot where you have to impress and Eric Bischoff himself is watching, you just want to go out there and give it your all. So when I was, just before we were ready to go out there, I was just I went off to a quiet little corner and kind of thought to myself and said my little prayer and did some push-ups, put on my oil, and I was ready to go.
Did you mostly call it in the ring, or because it was like a pretty high-profile match, you just kind of choreographed the entire thing in advance?
No, it's not choreographed. Choreographed is a term I hate, because choreographed would mean that Chris and I both got in the ring and we walked through everything verbatim and then probably went through it at full speed. I have never choreographed a match. I may have worked on spots, I may have worked on moves, but I don't choreograph. I never choreograph. Everything's still done on the fly pretty much, although, you do want to have some basic structure of what you're going to do out there. Somebody was asking me how nervous I was, and it's funny because I was nervous probably 2-3 hours before the thing. But half hour before the nerves go away, and the minute I step out there, the nerves are totally gone. I just feel like I'm right at home. And I'm almost a completely different person. I really do actually become Michael Modest instead of Mike Cariglio. I'm actually a different kind of guy. So, but yeah, it's not, choreographed is a bad term to use. Some things are planned, out ahead of time, but, there's no such thing as really choreographing.
Pertaining to that, Dave, I think Ricky Steamboat said it on your show. I've heard him on elsewhere doing an interview, where when he had that famous match with Savage at WrestleMania 3, that he said that they had that entire match planned out.
Like a month ahead.
I guess there was 100 moves.
Numbered.
I would think that once they got going, it would just, with all the adrenaline stuff, wouldn't it be almost, they did a great job and all to remember move after move.
Yeah, but you have to remember too, one of the things is, like, Chris and I have only worked together like 3 times. We worked 2 singles matches against each other, and then we worked once as a tag together. And but I've seen Chris work a lot because he's worked with APW pretty extensively. I've been working with UPW, plus I worked with him up in Pennsylvania Championship Wrestling. And so I've seen Chris, so I'm very familiar with Chris and the things that Chris does. So, when you got Savage and Steamboat going against each other, I didn't hear the interview, so maybe Steamboat did say that they planned a lot of things ahead of time. But it also comes pretty natural when you know what a guy, you know his things, you know how he works, a lot of the moves he's going to do. That's why the choreographing is not really necessary, and I doubt that Steamboat and Savage got in there and choreographed like a dancer will choreograph and actually practice the same dance over and over so that they can do it right to the beat and everything. Pro wrestlers don't really have to do that,
Right.
Things are pretty universal. People do the pile driver relatively the same way, et cetera. And then, Steamboat and Savage both have their signature things that they kind of do, like Savage taking the backdrop over the top rope and stuff. It's a lot easier when you see a guy and you're really very familiar with how he works in the ring and stuff. It kind of just goes. It just kind of flows. So it's, but like I said, I didn't hear what Steamboat said, so.
Right. Hey, Dave, Brian, I want to ask you guys two miscellaneous things real quick. I see that Larry Nelson, former AEWA announcer, has a book out.
Is it on wrestling?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I saw it on Amazon, and I was wondering if, Dave, if either of you guys have read it.
I had never even heard of it, let alone read it.
Okay, so I was looking for a recommendation.
I don't know. He was around in the AWA back, in the Showboat days. I remember him,
Right. And the last thing, do you think somewhere on Sunday night, Pete Rose was home watching that pay-per-view, thinking what a puss Drew Carey was, not even taking the move from Kane? Do Pete Rose is in training right now for the WrestleMania? Will he be there again this year?
WrestleMania? I was thinking that maybe, it'll be Drew Carey because they couldn't get Pete Rose. I don't know. But I obviously Drew Carey, there's some business deal because they plugged him again on the SmackDown that's going to air tomorrow. But, I think that they'll probably bring Pete Rose in at WrestleMania. I think it's kind of like their inside joke. yeah, it's kind of like their inside tradition, and it's fine. He's not, he's never gotten hurt, so.
Right. You ever hear how much he gets paid for those appearances?
No, I don't. I don't think it's huge money, but I think it's more like I think that they probably all do it just out of tradition at this point.
All right, guys.
Okay.
Thanks.
Special guest today, Mike Modest, Urban Wrestling, All Pro Wrestling on WCW Nitro last night. UPW. Any other indies that you've been working for of late?
No, I always like to give Pennsylvania Championship Wrestling a little plug because Blaine DeSantis spent a lot of money bringing me out there, and I really appreciate it. It was the first time I really had a chance to expose myself to the East Coast audience and get to know a lot of the East Coast workers, and I really thank Blaine for that. That was a really nice thing of him to do because he lost a lot of money. I wasn't putting all the butts in the seats to really justify him paying that much for airfare. He had to pay a tremendous amount in airfare to bring me out there.
Okay, well, that's good. I want to remind everyone, tomorrow we're going to have Blue Meanie and Jasmine St. Clair on, and then Friday, Bruno Sammartino. And then next week, I know we have Missy Hyatt. Lance Russell's back, so you should mark your date down. Mark the date down. I think Lance Russell's a week from tomorrow, I believe, and he's always one of our best guests. We got a full bank of calls here, so I'm going to get through these as quick as we can. Let's go to Danielle. Danielle, you're up with Mike.
Hello?
Hello, Danielle.
Yes, this is for Dave. I'd just like to know, why is there so much heat between you and Roddy Piper?
I was not aware that there is so much heat between me and Roddy Piper. The last time I spoke with Roddy Piper, we didn't have any heat.
Huh, okay.
I mean, he's probably post stuff, because it's Roddy. But, I don't...
Was it something recently?
Yes, I don't know if you've seen his website, but,
I don't remember. He said something on the website about, but I don't remember what was he talking about?
I'm not too sure, that's why I'm asking, but it sounds like you pissed him off about something, and...
Oh, no, I know, I did piss him off about something, but we've talked many times since then. And emailed back and forth.
Can you say why? What's going on?
Oh, I'll tell you the whole story. Roddy's daughter, I believe it was. There was an incident with Roddy's daughter that I reported in the newsletter. Okay, and Roddy himself he felt that his daughter is not a public figure, and he didn't want his family written about. And it was actually quite a story. And I just mentioned, some of it was reported in local news, a lot of it wasn't. It's like something that you would almost do a TV movie of the week about, to be honest. And his feeling basically is that his daughter is not in wrestling, so I should not have reported it. So that was the basic thing. But we've talked about it. But that's true. He was real mad about it, though. Yes, that's true.
Right. I agree. I don't think his daughter should be exposed. Unless she's going to be...
Well, it wasn't his daughter. It was the fact that it was... But Roddy Piper... this is my side is that it involved Roddy Piper, who was one of the biggest celebrities of this business, and it was really quite a story.
Yeah, the story wasn't completely about the daughter. Roddy played a pretty major role.
Roddy was a big deal in that story. In fact, I actually toned the story down a lot in the newsletter because it was really that wild of a story. And we talked with people in the police, and we got, it wasn't like some rumor that I heard. I talked to the police locally, and they told me about the whole thing. But his feeling was, since he didn't want his family written about, and I can understand, you're a father, and you want, your kids are growing up as Roddy Piper's kids, and you don't want your family written about when it's not wrestling. So I knew where he was coming from, and at the same time where I was coming from is Roddy Piper was involved in that story, and he's one of the 5-10 biggest stars in wrestling of the last, 10 biggest stars of the last, 25 years. So, what he does is probably more public to me than if it was, say, an unknown wrestler. There's like, if it was Hogan or Flair or somebody like that and the same thing happened, I absolutely would have written it. That's just the deal. And, but we talked about it, and believe me, I understand where he's coming from on it, though.
Right. Okay, well, that was my question. So.
Okay, definitely. He was real upset about that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would want to piss him off, so.
Roddy, you don't want to piss him off, no, because he's definitely a hothead.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, you're very welcome.
All right.
We'll do the show, though, huh?
What?
He still won't do the show, though.
No, Roddy doesn't. You know what? I should.
He'd get you in too much trouble.
That's what he told me. I asked him to do the show, and he said, "Dave, you don't want to get in that kind of trouble." And but he did want to do the show, when Gordon Soley died.
Yeah.
He actually, it was one of those things where I forget what happened. I mean, we were emailing, and I think he was gone that one day, but he had told me that, like, he wished that day he wanted to do the show, with Jack Briscoe and Flair and everybody. Let's go to, is it Corky in Oklahoma?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Hey, it's going really good.
Hey.
I have 2 quick questions. Excuse me. Dave, did I hear you correct yesterday in saying that the guys would call him Taz Donkey Kong backstage?
That was one of his nicknames, yeah.
Do you know if he's like in the doghouse over there or something?
Doghouse is I'm not really sure. There was a period where it seemed like he was in the doghouse. I mean, the fact that they put him on heat and give him stuff, I think that there's kind of a role. I mean, the problem with Taz, we said it before he ever went there, he's shorter than most people think, and then when you're in the WWF and you're short, you really look short because they got so many huge guys that people don't even realize how just huge they really are.
So and whether we notice it or not on TV, he's walking around backstage with all those guys, and
with Albert and Test. These guys, like, no one. When they say, like,
Glenn is the biggest guy I've ever seen in my life.
Kane. Well, Kane's huge as far as, like, because of his physique, but I mean, Albert and Test, people don't even think of them as big guys. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, 6'7" probably. Don't you think? I mean, Test is huge. So anyway.
Well, I just hope for Taz's sake Kevin Nash never comes back to the WWF. But my second question is for Mike. I was wanting to get his thoughts on wrestlers who wear lifts in their boots to look taller than their opponents.
I think it's a great thing. Because people like me that are vertically challenged, it's the only way we can look just a little taller. I don't wear lifts, but I do, my soles are nice and thick. Most wrestling boots have pretty thick soles, so it adds like an inch to you anyways. I personally don't like working with lifts. It makes me feel like Frankenstein walking on stilts. But hey, I think if you can get away with it, I think great. It gives some, some of the smaller guys a fighting chance at getting a job.
Well, okay, that's all I have. I just wanted to tell Mike I enjoyed his match on Nitro, and good luck in the future.
Oh, thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Charles in California. Charles, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Doing really good.
Good. Brian?
Good.
Good. Mr. Modest?
Yes.
Outstanding match last night. I really enjoyed it. I was sorry to see what happened to Mr. Daniels, but
yeah, I was too.
And
but thank God he's okay.
And I know Chris, he's a lot better. I've seen him wrestle before in public.
Chris is a phenomenal wrestler, and that's why he was very disappointed in his performance and stuff. Terry Taylor actually said something that was very, very poignant, and it was actually a very good way to put it. Chris was kind of down about it, and Terry Taylor asked Chris, he said, Chris, when you have a good match and everything goes right, do you go around patting yourself on the back for the next week? And Chris was like, no. And he goes, well, when things don't go exactly right and something does, get messed up, he said, don't go around beating yourself up for a week.
Yeah,
the thing that's so great about professional wrestling is that we don't have a second take. It's not like Hollywood stunt guys that, hey, if it doesn't come off just exactly right, no problem, we'll just reset the set and do it again. It's live, and
except for SmackDown.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to comment about that.
I saw Test and Kate Quick at SmackDown, and they had a lot of trouble. And when that thing aired on television, let me tell you, that was a miracle. That match was a miracle how well it aired on television compared to how it actually was.
One of the things that I've always been puzzled about in this business is, like when Chris fell on his head, there was actually some people in the crowd that laughed. And, I heard a couple of people starting the UF'd up chant that is so famous in ECW. And, the ECW guys, I don't know how they feel about that, but I think that's the most disrespectful thing a fan can do is chant that. Because, like, when Chris went for the moonsault there and landed on his head, that happens in any sport. Any sport, like every time a football player tries to dive into the end zone, he doesn't always make it. An athlete sometimes will fall short of his goal. And to me, that's the exciting thing about professional wrestling. It's kind of like car racing, man. Sometimes you're going to see a car accident, and it really pisses me off when so-called smart fans chant that, because to me it makes them look like bigger marks than they may even realize.
Yeah,
it's very, very disrespectful.
It's real immature. I was so nervous for you guys. I was telling a bunch of the kids in the WCW chat room, how much pressure it must be to actually be doing your resume, in front of the whole viewing public. That's a lot of pressure. I was so nervous for you guys.
Usually, guys, there's so much of that is like you're going to be signed in advance. I mean, these were, you were literally doing your tryout on Nitro.
Yeah, and it's something else. Like, whenever I've had tryouts with WWF, I know Vince McMahon is not watching my tryout. Vince, is trusting that Ross and Bruce Pritchard and so on and so forth, Kevin Kelly, they will be watching and they will let him know if they think there's an immediate rush to sign somebody. But in this situation, we were very well aware that Eric Bischoff would be watching, and we really wanted to impress. And so, yeah, the pressure was really, really on. And when that happened, thank God, we just worked our way through it. But it is kind of like a total letdown at that brief moment. You go, oh God, and the first thing I thought is, oh God, please say he's okay. Please, God, say he didn't hurt himself. And, thank God I'm knocking on wood left and right, today.
He's a real pro, because you guys, you still made the most of the situation. And even despite the unfortunate circumstance, you still came out really well. After that match, I said, this guy can replace Dean Malenko as the best American cruiserweight heel in this company.
Oh man, well, thank you very much. That's a huge compliment. I don't know that it's necessarily true, but I really appreciate the compliment. That's nice. Thank you.
Now, I apologize in advance if this question is redundant because my modem has been giving me all kinds of trouble today. But the one thing that I didn't like was them having Steiner come in and kill you guys after the match. I thought the company had kind of learned that it's counterproductive to devalue the cruiserweights by doing that type of thing. What was the deal on that, Dave?
Can I interject real quick? I don't think that they were trying to devalue cruisers or anything like that. I don't think that was the intention. They were very well aware of the fact that people would be upset. Those guys are not idiots. They knew that people would not be happy with that. And the fact of the matter is, like I said, I'm just glad that they didn't use two local guys, which they could have done very easily, and they gave Chris and I a shot. Yeah. So instead of everybody saying, they should have just put in two nobodies, wrestling shows, just like every other thing in business, has a budget, and they can't bring in more guys than that budget allows. And so they were kind enough to give Chris and I a shot. So please, everybody, do not, say that was a bad decision. It was a great decision that they made to bring Chris and I in, let us show our thing, and at the same time kill two birds with one stone. They still, got Scotty over and did what they needed to do with Scotty. So again, I'm going to come to their defense on that. I think it was a great move on their part.
Okay, well, if you say so, then I say so.
Well, one thing to note also is the company, it wasn't just, if you consider that devaluing talent, those aren't definitely the only two guys that they devalued. On the same show, 5 minutes earlier, they just killed Alex Wright and put him through a stage. So it's not like they were focusing on these guys in particular.
That's true.
It's not like they brought, it's not like, the good thing is that if they had given them 90 seconds and then done that, that would have been totally different. But, they gave them a chance to show their stuff, for 7-8 minutes on television, which is, they had time, they had a fair shot. It wasn't like, and Mike, you've had this in WWE and on WWF and WCO probably, where, they go out there and go, you've got 12 minutes and you're out there and at 3 minutes they say go home and all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's not necessarily a fair opportunity.
Didn't really get a chance to do anything.
Hey, Dave, what do you think about, Big Vito and Johnny the Bull? I'm so impressed with those guys as a tag team.
They had a good match last night. It's just too bad that the crowd by that point just wasn't into it. But Johnny the Bull is very impressive. Vito's a hardworking, kind of underrated guy for sure.
Both of those guys are hardworking, and you're totally right, Dave. Vito is very underrated. He's a great worker, and so is Johnny the Bull. They're incredible talents, and I can't say enough about those two guys. I saw that match, and it was very good. I saw it, the night of live, and I was very disappointed in some of the crowd response. But yeah, I thought that was a good match.
And just think about how much time Johnny the Bull has had off with like 10 million different injuries.
And he comes back without skipping a beat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he didn't. What does he press slammed?
He sure did.
Did he press slam Jindrak over his head?
Yep.
that's a good-sized guy to do that, because he's not like a huge guy. I mean, I remember seeing that. That was pretty impressive, and just, I mean, overall aggressiveness and work. I mean, I thought that was probably the second best match. You know, that one, and the other guy who I was really impressed with last night was Chavo Guerrero, and, you know, I'm sure, you know, Mike would probably die to work with Chavo Guerrero.
I'd love to work Chavo. Chavo is amazing, and I've seen his work, you know, really start to really improve, and they're really giving him a chance to shine a lot more than in the past.
Yeah, I agree with all of the above. I just hope, I wish they would change the name from the Mamalukes, though. They need a better name.
Yeah, because you know what else? Mamalukes is kind of like from that one of those eras where things weren't doing too good, and it kind of like has that connotation of sort of a joke team. And you know, those guys, you know, when they first got together, you know, it was one thing, but now, you know, they're serious guys if they're given a push.
Exactly.
You know, both those guys.
I think it's definitely worth it to push these guys as a serious tag team, because, I mean, they really are good. I don't know, I've been trying to get them to try to change it to Staten Island Express. I think it kind of takes in that Italian heritage, but at the same time, it kind of puts you in the mind of other great WCW tag teams like Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express. I just think it's a better name for them.
Yeah, I would agree.
Rather than trying to play on the old Sopranos thing now, because that was all kind of a joke, and that team is better than that.
Yeah. Charles, I want to get going because I want to get to Mike if we have time. Do we have time for Mike? Al, okay, let's go to Mike. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, guys, how are you?
Hey, Mike.
Doing really good.
Hey, I want to tip my hat to you, Mike Modest, because I just thought that match, that stood out to me as just like something I don't really see on Nitro every week.
Oh, thank you.
That was a nice match.
Thank you very much.
And now I have something for you, Dave, and I called up WCW Live yesterday, and I asked them this, and they were pretty much speechless. I happen to be a first-time caller for you guys, too. First, I asked them what kind of contract was Ming under, and Bob said, I don't think we should answer that question. And then I asked, is the MBT under pay-per-appearance deals, too? And they both hesitated to answer, and then he said, yes, they're under WCW contracts. Jeremy said that. And I was just wondering, I've been told the opposite, that they're actually, like everybody in MBT other than Stasiak is paid per appearance, and also Kiwi, Elix Skipper, Road Warrior Animal. So the WWF could take all these people, or what?
I don't know the situation with those contracts. I would be surprised.
I think the Thrillers are under a deal.
Yeah, but I don't know. A lot of the guys are under like Shannon Moore, for example. He's under a contract. It's not a high-paying deal. I don't know. You might be right about Thrillers. I don't know. I mean, I know what Ming was, and Ming had a contract, and they cut him, and then they decided, you know, a couple of months later to bring him back, but it was on like 500. I think it was 500 a night. You know, but with no, you know, I mean, he could have gone at any time, and they just didn't really think, you know, because when they cut him, you got to remember that Vince McMahon had a chance to take him and had no interest in Ming at the time. So I think that their feeling was, you know, he's an older guy. It's not like anyone else has interest, and we'll just use him whenever we want to. Then they put the belt on him, and then Vince went and, you know, took him a couple of days later. And, you know, and again, that's one of those things. You really shouldn't put a belt on a guy that you don't have a contract on. I mean, that's just the reality of today's wrestling, and it was another example.
Or even give a big push.
Or even give a big push. That's right. You know, until you have them on, because of the nature of the competitiveness of this business. I think both sides should pretty much have to know that. And I think Eric kind of learned something from that, and Vince certainly knows that, because they don't put people on TV unless they have some sort of a contract with them. So anyway, we are totally out of time. I want to thank you, Mike, very much for doing the show.
Thank you, Dave.
And you're very welcome. And then tomorrow we're going to have Blue Meanie, and Friday Bruno Sammartino, and we'll see everyone tomorrow at 5.